Morning, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of Development and Property on Tuesday, August the 15th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the land acknowledgement. As we gather this morning, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Has roll call been taken, Evelyn?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and we have quorum.
Thank you very much. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, before we actually start the meeting, I certainly want to recognize the significant contribution that Rose Gruntz has made over 25 years of service with the County of Renfrew, and I would like to start a big round of applause for the time and effort that she has put in with this organization. You're welcome. It goes without saying that we wouldn't be able to function as well as we do without Rose's guidance, and certainly making sure we don't stray off the path when we're doing our committee meetings and our county council meetings. So item number 5 is the adoption of the previous meeting minutes held on June 13th, 2023. Could I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Town of Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from the Township of Laurentian Valley. Any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. So this morning we are going to move into closed for the purpose of a discussion of a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. We have 2 items: Keys Public School, Deep River, and Renfrew County Housing Corporation property sale in Armprior. Can I get a mover and a seconder to move into closed, please? Moved by the councillor from Town of Armprior, seconded by councillor from Greater Madawaska. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. We are now in closed. Thank you and welcome back. So at this point, then I will turn it back over to Director Davis for the Development and Property Report.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning yet again, committee members. Starting on page 2 of the departmental report, item number 1 is the Treasurer's report up to June 2023. That can be found on pages 9 to 13 of your committee package, and if you had a chance to review, I'll draw your attention to the last page. You'll notice that the departmental budget is underspent right now by around $300,000. Just to draw your attention to that is mostly to do with 2 items. Forestry revenues are up, which we talked about before at this committee. Also, with Mr. Howarth's planning division, their severances are up and they're making more revenue on that. It may not mean a continued uptick throughout 2024, but at least currently at end of June, they're up a little bit. And also some revenue savings or savings or expenditures because of the staffing issue. So we still have not hired a planning person yet. We're still under the process. We reissued another ad to draw people into the County of Renfrew for a planner. We just finished the recruitment process for the GIS person, so that took a little longer than expected. So those are the savings at this point of $300,000, but we're still on track for the other items. So what I'll do, Chair, if I could, I'll leave it at that, and we do have the managers here if there's any individual questions about the budget report when it comes to that. Item number 2 on page 14 of your committee package is just the cell project update for Eastern Ontario and specifically for Renfrew County. I'll say slow progress, but progress nonetheless. We're hoping to have these items completed and those numbers up a little bit of an uptick earlier on, and maybe later on when we'll get more bigger updates once we work through the CRINS process for individual municipalities. Third item for information is the Association of Municipalities AMO Annual Conference. So we are directed to put a delegation request into the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, and just recently we're approved for that request to be a delegation, and you'll see it's to do with flood mapping and flood mitigation here in Renfrew County, and so we do have a delegation with the Minister, Mr. Graydon Smith, on Tuesday of next week. So we have CAO, the Warden, the Chair. We'll put that delegation in front of the Minister on Tuesday. Item number 4 is from our K&P Advisory Committee that was held last week regarding a RED program, Rural Economic Development. And you see in the committee package, we were successful in a grant application, and thanks to ECDEV staff who put the application in. As you see in the report, we are successful for a little over $8,000 for improvements to the K&P recreational trail. And with that, and under the delegation authority of Mr. Kelly, we signed the agreement. So it's a good news story. I wish it was more money, but $8,000 nonetheless is still work we can put towards the K&P trail to make those improvements as we move forward. So that's an information item, item number 4. And maybe, Chair, let's leave it at that, and before we go to resolutions.
Thank you, Director Kelly. So going back to information item number 1 is the Treasurer's report. Any questions or comments? Item number 2 is the Cell Gap Project update. Yes, Councillor from Town of Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. CRINS has approved a tower on Hartney within the Town of Arnprior, which is very close to the power dam on Highway 17. That's what they've recommended. I haven't seen it being built yet, but it's going to be a go. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, questions on item number 2? Item number 3 is the Association of Municipalities of Ontario AMO Annual Conference. Looking forward to exploring London. Item number 4 is the Rural Economic Development Program funding for the K&P Recreational Trail. Questions, comments? I see none, so I'll turn it back to Director Davis for resolutions, please.
Thank you, Chair. In the first resolution on page 3, the request for proposal DP 2023-01 Climate Action Plan. And I'll read the recommendation, Chair, that the Development and Property Committee recommends that the request for proposal DP 2023-01 for the Climate Change Action Plan be awarded to Ainsworth Incorporated, Toronto, Ontario, in the amount of $72,522 plus applicable taxes, and further that the funds be taken from the provisions of unallocated funds.
Thank you, Director Davis. You've heard the resolution. Could I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Town of Arnprior, seconded by Councillor from Township of Laurentian Valley. Comments, questions? Oh, sorry, background.
Thanks, Sharon. Just for background, and this is not the first time we issued this RFP. So some of the committee members may be aware that through Craig Kelly at the time, we issued this, I think 2000, is it pre-pandemic times? And we had 0 responses, but we had a minimal budget of $25,000 at the time. And part of our strategic plan that was created and recommended by committee and council was to have a climate action plan. So staff is moving forward with this, as you see in front of you. It's a little above what we anticipated of $25,000 at the time for $72,000, but we do have funds associated with this. It is a direction from County Council to make this happen. It's a good news story. We can get an idea of our expenditures on greenhouse gases, and then from this corporation, this company, they'll hopefully have policies and recommendations in place how we move forward. But to be clear, though, there will be a cost. Any of the plans that they recommend will be a cost to Renfrew County. Just by the geographic nature of Renfrew County, we're spread out, we're rural. The expenditures we have in this northern climate is for greenhouse gases is quite high. Our fleet management, just by the nature of our geography, our fleet management alone is a challenge to reduce these things. But in the past, the Forestry Division has expressed interest and expressed information to committee about carbon credits that could be taken into consideration also. So maybe I'll leave it at that, Chair, and leave it at that.
Thank you, Director Davis. Comments or questions? Councillor from Town of Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. To the Director, how deep will this, I'm just visioning the climate action. You have different buildings in different towns that belong to the county. Will they be taken into this, under the umbrella, so that hypothetically, the building on McGonigal has a stone roof, it should be changed to a peak roof with whatever? Will it be that detailed so it comes back to our town as well?
Based on the cost and what's going to happen in the first phase is to review what we have. So with this company, they don't have a prime example of what the assets we have, the buildings we have, like 80 McGonigal and this building, et cetera, et cetera. But they will be reviewing our gashouse, our emissions based on our expenditures and our bills that we have for electricity and natural gas, and looking at that. They may not go into the detail of replacing flat roofs for peak roofs, but they'll give general recommendations like EV stations. They may look at electrifying our fleets, if that's a possibility. So it'll be a challenge nonetheless. So it's going to be a decent level at this price point, but not a high level for individual, basically micromanaging the buildings.
Councillor from McNabb Braeside.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Mr. Davis. Is there any acknowledgement of the importance of soils in greenhouse gas reductions and the possibility of sequestering carbon into soils that will be taken into consideration by Ainsworth?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So what I mentioned before about sequestering, we've talked about this before at committee and at county council regarding the county forests, and that's a possibility. They'll look at this. It could be a recommendation that we use basically our carbon sink of our county forests to offset our greenhouse emissions, gas emissions. But again, we'll have to work with this company to review the scope of this work. Again, even though $72,000 is a lot of money, it's a scoped down version of what could happen.
follow up?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, follow-up question. So, I wasn't necessarily referring to the forest because that's one biological component, I guess, to greenhouse gas reduction, but just, farm soils and soils that we have around, increasing the organic matter in soils is a drawdown of CO2 in the atmosphere. So beyond forests, onto other lands, grasslands, farms in the area, whatnot, is there any accounting for the benefit of drawing carbon down into soils, sequestering it into soils, which also acts as a flood and drought mitigation point?
Thank you for the clarity. So the specific nature of this RFP is dealing with the County of Renfrew owned lands and properties. So to go beyond and the greater scope of things in farmlands in Renfrew County is beyond this scope. We'll look at, and we can ask the question though, by all means, with this corporation, this company, to see any impacts that way, but specifically this is straight County of Renfrew lands and properties.
Any other comments, questions? I guess I just wanted to weigh in a little bit. For my liking, there's not enough detail on what they're actually going to be focusing on. I noticed all of the companies that bid on the RFP, they are from the cities. I'd like some assurance that they have some experience working in a rural municipality and taking into account some of the challenges in rural municipalities. And I guess one of my concerns would be that we don't just need somebody to come in to tell us some of the work that we've already done, such as improvements to our buildings, upgrading, our heating, ventilation, windows, etc., and the electrification of our fleets, I think, is probably might be a good idea, but premature for a rural municipality with such a large geographic area. So those are just some of my concerns, and maybe for County Council, if we could get a little more detail on what will actually be covered.
Thank you, Chair. So in preparation for County Council, we'll add more information to this item, just to tease out some of the details of what they're going to be producing for us, the County of Renfrew, for better details. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Seeing no further questions, then I'll call the vote. All in favor? Those opposed? Thank you. And I'll go back to you, Director Davis, for the next item.
Item number 6, and that's found on page 4 of your committee package, Renfrew County Housing Corporation property arm prior. And Chair, I'll read the recommendation and I'll wait for the background. The recommendation is that the Development and Property Committee direct staff to review opportunities with housing providers for the use of County of Renfrew and Renfrew County Housing Corporation owned lands and bring back to committee for updates and considerations.
Thank you, Director Davis. You've heard the recommendation. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Greater Madawaska, seconded by Councillor from Town of Arnprior. And back to you for background, please.
Thank you, Chair. So just in front of this committee, we want to bring this housing crisis that not only Renfrew County is happening in Ontario and Canada and the world. We want to bring this to your attention that we do have within our policy GAO2 of disposal of assets, the opportunity to look at county-owned lands and Renfrew County Housing Corporation owned lands to work with possible nonprofit organizations if they're interested and they approach us. In the past, we'd bring everything to committee and county council. With this recommendation, we can move things forward and speed things up if we could to have any opportunities for nonprofit organizations that do reach out to us to show us or have opportunities for these vacant lands or even unvacant lands as we move forward. So what we'll do moving forward through GIS and mapping, we'll highlight the different properties that we own and to see if people would have interest with these lands. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Davis. Any comments, questions? Seeing, oh, sorry, the warden.
Yeah, I like it, and I'm wondering if number 3 allows conversations outside of our lands, because I think the councillor or the member from Arnprior and the mayor of Arnprior and I had some conversations, and there are other people who are interested who own pockets of land and would like to talk about it, because they recognize that if it's built, the County of Renfrew as the service manager, or Renfrew County Housing Corporation has to be involved. So I think there might be some conversations, and it looks like 3 allows those conversations should someone approach you. So I wanted to make sure that there was the opportunity, if there was an interested group with their own land and could proceed somehow, that they had the opportunity to speak to staff, knowing that we are the housing service manager.
Director Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, through you to the warden. So yes, that's item number 3 in that report. Will provide us that opportunity to expand our scope if we could. So again, it's very general in nature. We're at a high level of different opportunities, so this gives us some latitude to move forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 7 on page 5 of your committee package. Actually, the number of these items you'll see in front of you is from our recent 2 trail committees, committee meetings we had last week with Taylor Hanrath. And Taylor is in the back of the room here. Just in case there's any technical questions, I think I can answer any of the questions, but it was his report we were bringing through this committee, and you'll see why later on. So item number 7 is land use agreements with Mr. Jablonski. And I'll read the recommendation, Chair, that the Development and Property Committee authorize the Chief Administrative Officer, Clerk, to approve a land use agreement for encroachment on the Algonquin Trail lands by Christophe and Elizabeth Jablonski for the purpose of an existing fence and parking area.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by councillor from the town of Greater Madawaska, seconded by the warden. Background?
Thank you, Chair. As a background, and what you'll see on pages 15 to 20 of your committee package is the application, the location of the lands, and this initiated, I think, pre-pandemic. This was initiated by Mr. Jablonski, and at the time, the County of Renfrew did not have an encroachment policy, and basically on this request, on Mr. Jablonski's request, staff was directed by committee and council to create this encroachment policy. It took a little longer than anticipated, but the encroachment policy was eventually approved by County Council. And with that, we have a number of agreements in place in front of you today, but this is the first one. Staff has reviewed this, see no issues at the time of this. Again, these agreements aren't on title, so you won't see these agreements in the land registry system. This is an agreement between 2 parties. This is reviewed by our legal team also, so it's a good news story and moving things along. And so that's the brief background, and you'll see a number of these things coming up more and more. And as we see these encroachment agreements come forward, we may have to modify the actual policy to kind of streamline these things so it doesn't be, if there's no need to bring it to committee, staff can be directed to just sign off on these things moving forward. But as it stands right now, our encroachment policies brings it to this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Comments or questions? Yes, councillor from town of Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Director Davis. So I looked at a few of the maps here in terms of where they want to move the fence. Once this is, if it's passed and completed, how close will the fence be to the actual Algonquin Trail?
Through you, Chair. So If I may, it's well off the trail. It will not impede the traffic in any way. So you have the trail bed of at least 10 to 15 feet of the stone dusted material. Then we still have vegetation, we still have a ditch, and then that's when the fence starts. So it's well off the trail. It won't impede the trail at all, but that will be one of our biggest concerns. If any of these encroachment requests come to us, at any way, at any time, if they would have any possible effect to the use of the trail, we won't approve it. So in this situation, we feel we're comfortable with this request.
So I guess, follow-up, sir? I guess we've looked at all liability issues in terms of somebody leaving the trail and hitting the fence. Who would be liable? Because it's on county property, would we be liable, or would the owner of the fence?
If I may, Chair, so once it's on our property, any accident on our property, we're at least 1% liable as to the insurance policy, so either way.
And just
Yes.
another follow-up. This is sort of related, I guess. I've traveled quite a bit on the trail, and I've seen instances where adjacent homeowners have actually planted trees, within feet of the actual stone-dusted portion of the trail. So those existing encroachments, will they be dealt with, I guess, with this new encroachment policy?
Through you, Chair, to the councillor. So when we receive a request or notified through a complaint or otherwise, or the staff, when we investigate or do our typical trail inspections and notify or be notified of these issues, we'll address them when they come up. We are aware of people having gardens on the property. We're aware of other things that have happened, so it'll be a case-by-case basis.
Thank you.
Are there any other, yes, Councillor from Township of Laurentian Valley.
Thank you, Chair. I guess my question has to do with future sales. So if the Jablonskis decided to sell their property, would you have to come up with a new agreement for the future owners?
Through you, Chair, yes, they would. This agreement is specifically with this person, not with the land. So yes.
Thank you.
Supplementary?
No,
No.
thank you.
Okay. Any other, oh yes, Councillor from Town of Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. To the Director, is there any hope that this person could buy the property, going through our disposal of assets? That way our liability would be gone?
Through you, Chair. So there's always the possibility. In this situation, we're kind of handcuffed by our partners agreement with Lanark County and Papineau Cameron, and built within that property, within that agreement with the partners, when we purchase the CP corridor, we'd have to notify them and offer that property up to them first. Also, on top of that, we do also have a fiber optic agreement with CP that remains with the land. And if that impacts that fiber optic agreement, it couldn't be sold. So there's a lot of hoops beyond our policy or our disposal policy to move forward with that one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All in favor? And that's carried. And Mr. Davis, back to you for the next item.
Thank you, Chair. On the same topic of encroachments, land use agreement with Mr. McBurney, that the recommendation that the Development and Property Committee authorize the Chief Administrative Officer Clerk to approve a land use agreement for encroachment on the Algonquin Trail lands by Suzanne and Terrence McBurney for the purpose of a new driveway crossing.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Township of Laurentian Valley, seconded by Councillor from Town of Arnprior. And background again, please.
Thank you, Chair. And similar to the previous request and recommendation, this is to do with the encroachment policy. Within the encroachment policy also deals with crossing agreements. Again, for clarity, this is not on title, on land registry or land registry system title. This is just an agreement between two individuals, our organization, the County of Renfrew, and this Mr. McBurney. They requested access to get a better access directly to their property off of River Road. You'll see in the committee packages on page 21 to 24, I believe, or 21 to 21, the request and the location of the crossing. So staff was out there. So they have legal access through Wrangell Road. That's their legal access. And so, but it's a seasonal access, not great. And Mr. McBurney wishes to live there full-time and wishes to have a better full-time access, and this would give him that access. Yes, it's in McNabb Braeside. He put this request through. Staff, Public Works staff, the corridor control person has reviewed this because it's entering on to River Road also. So we own the Algonquin Trail, and then we have access to the county-owned River Road. Staff have reviewed this and see no concerns. The sight lines are good. Any costs associated with this would be on Mr. McBurney. And again, first and foremost is the safety of the trail users. So we'll take that into account with this agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any comments, questions? Yes, Councillor from Town of Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Director Davis. Just wondering about deterioration of the trail in spring, summer, and fall in terms of the traffic crossing the trail. I've seen other crossings on the trail, and those are generally the areas where there's a good deal of deterioration. So who would be responsible for the upkeep spring, summer, and fall? And then in the wintertime, when that becomes a snowmobile trail, and it's being groomed, will these vehicles be crossing over the groomed trail, and how will that affect the snowmobile trail in the winter?
Any maintenance concerns related to the crossing would be on the Mr. McBurney. And to your second question about the snowmobile trail, we have multiple, and I say multiple, driveways across the Algonquin Trail currently. This is nothing new for the groomers. They'll be aware of this. There'll be stop signs installed at this location, whether it's for Mr. McBurney or for the trail or users of the trail. That'll be decided once it's finalized. I'd recommend that it's for Mr. McBurney and his residents to stop at the trail and make sure it's safe to use. But there's nothing new for the OFSC. Again, I'd be hesitant to say a number, but well into the dozens of private driveway crossings existing already on the Algonquin Trail that was pre-existing before we purchased it, and they had no issues with the snowmobiles. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the recommendation? And that's carried. Once again, back to you, Director Davis.
Thank you again. We're almost through. Item number C on page 6 of your committee package, the Algonquin Trail Park Area for the town of Arnprior, and the recommendation that the Development and Property Committee grants approval to the town of Arnprior to erect signage and additional trees along the Algonquin Trail for the purpose of identifying the town's business center and park, and further that the park name Arnprior Station be approved.
Thank you, Director Davis. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by the warden, seconded by Councillor from Town of Arnprior. Background, please.
Thank you, Chair. So on page 25 is the request from the town of Arnprior looking to formalize a small section of the Algonquin Trail in the town of Arnprior. And committee may be aware that we did at, I think, 2021, we improved this area that they're requesting with we grassed this area. We seeded this area, and it's a nice green area currently. Also, we approved the planting of trees adjacent to this section called the Alameda section, which was donated by a nursery in the town of Arnprior. So this fits into what the Algonquin Trail was purchased for, to be improved upon by the local municipalities that it goes through. And this is another benefit to us working with the individual municipalities through where the trail goes through. They're willing to improve the trail. They're willing to put in place some additional signage and plant more trees, and this is a win-win, and that's why it's in front of you today to finalize this approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. And finally, item number D. Mr. Davis, please.
Last item for resolutions, the proposed Recreational Trail Advisory Committee terms of reference. And the recommendation is that the Development and Property Committee recommends to the Striking Committee and County Council that the K&P Recreational Management Advisory Committee and the Trails Advisory Committee be amalgamated into one Trails Advisory Committee, and further that County Council approve the terms of reference for the new Recreational Trails Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Town of Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from Township of Laurentian Valley. And once again, background.
Thank you, Chair. And then the background on page 6 of your committee package. Again, when we talked about the business cases back in February and March through County Council to amalgamate and to move the trails maintenance over to Public Works, this is part and parcel of this. So the committee may be aware we currently have 2 trail committees, actually 3 trail committees involved. The K&P Recreational Trail, which was purchased back in 2001, was the first trail committee we had within the corporation, and it's been ongoing since then. It meets regularly, and I shouldn't say regularly, it meets twice a year. Staff feels like we could amalgamate these two committees to make it one committee to recognize the K&P Advisory Committee and also the Algonquin Trail, to make it more efficient for staff when we bring committees and information to the elected. I think it was going to work out fine. The K&P is at a different stage than the Algonquin Trail. We are still currently building out the Algonquin Trail, while the K&P Trail has been established again since 2001 as a recreational trail. So it's a good time to review this and bring this forward to amalgamate the 2 trails. And this was approved by both committees last week. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any comments or questions? I see none. All in favor? And that's carried. And that will bring us to bylaws, and back to you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Under bylaws, one of 2 items, so we're going to bring the other one out too, so I don't forget, Chair. The acquisition of the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority, or MVCA-owned section of the K&P Trail Network. And with the recommendation, Chair, that the Development and Property Committee recommends to County Council that a bylaw be adopted authorizing the Warden and Chief Administrative Officer Clerk to enter into an agreement of purchase and sale with the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority for the County of Renfrew section of the K&P Trail for $1 with a free and clear title, and further that the Chief Administrative Officer Clerk be authorized to enter into a lease agreement with the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority for the County of Renfrew section of the K&P Trail for the nominal sum of $1 annually until such time as the agreement is terminated or the purchase is completed, and further that an agreement be entered with the County of Lanark to share the 19% of the cost to free and clear title.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Moved by the Warden, seconded by Councillor from Town of Greater Madawaska. Background, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is an ongoing item that was brought to the number of committees in this committee in the past. So just as a brief background, so the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority owns the remaining section of the K&P Trail through Lanark County and Frontenac County, and a small portion in Renfrew County in the attached map, around 6 kilometers. The Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority expressed an interest to basically get out of the trail business and to sell this trail to basically the counties, the 3 counties. It makes sense for us to enter into this agreement. We want to keep this in the public realm like we've done in the past for the K&P Trail, the 21 kilometer section we own between Renfrew and Calabogie. This will make a good asset. And then also partnering with Lanark County, Frontenac County to make this happen. This framework of this partnership with these 2 other counties is similar to what we did with the Algonquin Trail when we partnered with Papineau Cameron and Lanark County to purchase the trail from CP. So we're mimicking this, but instead of the County of Renfrew being the lead on this, Lanark County is being the lead on this, looking at the legalities and the surveys required. So what you have in front of you is the next steps to purchase this 6.7 kilometer section of the K&P Trail. To provide context, is if you know the area of Greater Madawaska, it's just south of Calabogie Lake, just after Tatty Hill Road going south to the Lanark County border. Minimal maintenance or minimal expenditures would need to be incurred to make this, to continue this into a trail. It's an existing trail. Stone dust would be the ultimate surface type, but it's still usable currently by trail users as it is right now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any comments, questions? Yes, Warden, please.
Yeah, I'm curious, are there any encumbrances, because I know there are some, I think there are some seasonal residents between Taddy Hill and Mile Lake, or is Mile Lake, Brooks Lake, or I can't remember what lake it is along there, it's been a long time, but I think there's 4 on that one lake on this end, so is there any, do we have any encumbrances? Because I think they use it for their access, and I would think it's similar to what happens with some of the KMP residents in the Ashdad area.
Through you, Chair. So those residents you're talking about, those seasonal residents, they do access the KMP trail to access their lands, and we would never stop that. We'd have to formalize some things like what we did, either through key agreements or through a formal agreement, but we'd never, hopefully never stop access because it's history. It's they've been using this for decades, so that's not the intent at all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
And just from our Trail Committee meeting, Mr. Davis, maybe you could just expand a little bit. I guess there was a resident along the trail that used to have some major concerns about the condition of the trail, but apparently the work that's been done has changed his opinion.
Thank you, Chair, and duly noted. We had a person just in the Adamson-Bromley area regarding the maintenance of the trail. He wasn't pleased with the previous maintenance of the trail, I guess, at me. He thought the grading wasn't up to snuff, and the maintenance of the trail was, again, not up to his standards. But with this transition to Public Works and through Taylor and his team, he couldn't be happier. He said the improvement to the KMP trail, specifically in front of his property or behind his property, much improved. And I'm not going to say he'll never call us again, but he's very appreciative of the work that our Public Works staff have completed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I just thought that was worth mentioning, the great work of our staff in the improvements that have been made. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. And before we move on, I think we'll take a 10-minute break. And, oh, I'm sorry, yes, Mr. Davis has one more item.
Thank you, Chair. Just to finish that off, and before I go on to the last item, I do want to acknowledge the work that has started on the Algonquin Trail through the Garrison Petawawa lands. It's been a number of years to work through the agreements with Garrison Petawawa, a number of years to work through the agreements with TransCanada Pipeline that have an existing agreement, but I'm happy to announce that work on the Algonquin Trail through Garrison Petawawa started yesterday. Again, thank you for Public Works staff. Taylor in the back is the lead on this. He got this done. Yes, I think it's fantastic. The work so far, they've completed. Again, this is just the prepping of the Algonquin Trail. So just a reminder, we're not using the existing rail bed through Garrison Petawawa lands, but basically forested and field areas that's abutting or close to the TransCanada Pipeline. So a lot more work needs to be done, a little more expensive, but this is the first step in the process. So congratulations to Public Works, Taylor and Anthony getting this started. So thank you very much, Chair. So that being said, I'm going to move off to the last item in the report, and that was part of the closed discussion. And I'll read the recommendation, Chair. That the Development Property Committee recommends that County Council pass a bylaw to execute a memorandum of understanding between the County of Renfrew and the Town of Deep River on a shared opportunity to purchase the discontinued Keys Public School located at 167 Brockhouse Way, Town of Deep River, for a potential future housing initiative and community hub. And further, that funds required for the county's 50% portion of the appraisal be taken from the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Purchase Services account.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the recommendation, please? Moved by the councillor from Greater Madawaska, seconded by the councillor from McNabb-Braeside. Comments or questions? Or sorry, I think we have the the information, or did you want to add anything for background, Mr. Davis?
Maybe what I could do just for the viewing audience and just do a brief background for this. So committee and county council directed staff to write a letter of expression of interest to the Renfrew County School Board to see if we would be interested in this or possibly be interested in purchasing this school moving forward. And at the same time, we've talked to the town of Deep River staff. They have the same interest as we do as a community hub and social housing or a possible housing initiative for this site. So we partnered with the town of Deep River. We've signed a shared letter of expression with the town of Deep River to the school board. Staff have reviewed this site and we see a potential here, but there's many steps to be completed before we move forward. So this is what we have in front of you is sharing the costs of the appraisal to see if this is even a possibility with the school board. And I'll leave it at that, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. So thank you very much, Mr. Davis. That's been a very lengthy report, but we'll take 10 minutes and we'll get back here for 11 o'clock. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. And at this point, I will turn it over to Ms. Markwood for the Economic Development Division report.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. So bear with me, there's a number of items on this report today. The first one is the Business Retention and Expansion Training Program. Our Economic Development Officer, Scott Hamilton, participated as a presenter during OMAFRA's Train the Trainer program. So the BRNE Train the Trainer program is a requirement for any municipal representative and any organization who receives funding to complete a business retention and expansion feasibility study for their community. And with Mr. Hamilton's previous experience working with the Township of Whitewater region in delivering their BRNE, he was asked by OMAFRA to be a presenter as part of the Trainer program. So that was a great opportunity to help showcase the County of Renfrew and some of our municipalities who have previously participated in those activities. Number 2, the Cultural Connector Awards presentation. This is going back to the end of June, and I think the warden did make notes of this in his June address at County Council, but we participated in the presentation of the Culture Connector Awards in Arnprior, and this was through our partnership with the local immigration partnership of Renfrew Lanark, of which the county was a sponsor. And so the Cultural Connector Awards acknowledges the outstanding efforts of those who've gone above and beyond helping newcomers and new Canadians adjust to their new lives in the Ottawa Valley. And those 3 recipients are Michelle Beal from Arnprior, Teresa Dunn from Arnprior, as well as Union 108 Yoga Studio in Arnprior. Number 3 is Taste of the Valley, and we just had our first Taste of the Valley event from 2023 this past Saturday, in Eganville. There were almost 1,000 visitors in attendance, which is great. We had over 45 vendors, and this was in a new location in Eganville, which was held at the Eagles Nest Community Center, and so we had a mix of booths indoors and outdoors, which was great because there was a rain event that happened at about 1 o'clock that kind of dampened the event, but it was great because many vendors were able to be positioned inside the community's hall, as well as some were moved indoors last minute, which able to extend the event. But it was a great first event for the season, with lots of great entertainment and local food and producers doing what they do best, which is selling all of their goods. And I also just wanted to note that for the next 4 events coming up, that we have pretty much exceeded vendor registrations for these events compared to previous years. So that just goes to show the demand and the need and the desire for vendors to be participating at these events. We have sold out in Deep River and in Pembroke. We're actually on a wait list for Pembroke. There are a few spots left in Calabogie and Cobden, but not many. And just as a reminder, Calabogie's coming up on September 9th, Deep River September 30th, Cobden October 14th, and the Pembroke Holiday Edition on December 16th. Number 4 is recently announced and open funding programs. So there are a number here, I won't go through them, but all of these have been shared to our local business community through Economic Development Division, as well as on our social media channels, as well as appropriately through Enterprise Renfrew County and the OVTA where appropriate. There's the Advanced Manufacturing and Innovation Competitive Stream that actually closes at the end of this month. There's the New Horizons for Seniors program. That one just opened up on August 1st and closes on September 14th. There's the Grow Ontario Market Initiative. That's an ongoing one. There's no closing date. It goes until funds run out. The Meat Processors Capacity Improvement Initiative, that remains open until January 31st. It only opens at the end of this month on August 31st. And then the Forest Biomass Program, that is open and closes at the end of September. And Economic Development and Forestry staff are also working with the local forestry business community to support their applications that we'll be going through. Number 5 is CNL's Industry Supplier Day, which is being held on September 7th. And that's an opportunity for local suppliers and local businesses within Renfrew County to meet and promote their services to CNL and their larger suppliers. So that's happening on September 7th from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Our Economic Development Coordinator Scott Hamilton will be in attendance, and we also actually just received an invitation to the opening on September 6th for their Science Collaboration Center, which I believe Reeve Flinch will be attending on behalf, and Mr. Hamilton will also be there as well for that day. So it's great to support the opening of that new facility and support our local businesses at CNL. So if I could just note, CNL, there's no charge for businesses to be have a display booth at that event on September 7th. So that is open, and there's a link in the report for businesses to sign up, and we've also shared that with our local business community. Number 6 is we are going to be starting an economic development business newsletter. So that's going to be released 4 times a year to the local business community, as well as all of our municipal partners and municipalities and community partners and that type of thing. So there are 2 links in the report. One is to sign up for the newsletter, and the other one is we want to be highlighting local businesses in Renfrew County about what they do and who they are. And so there's an intake form also that businesses can submit their information so that we can highlight them in future issues of the newsletter, as well as across social media. Number 7 is another RED grant application that we were successful on for the Rural Community Inclusion Pilot Project. And this dovetails with the current newcomer attraction strategy program that we have going on here at the County of Renfrew. The County of Lanark was the lead on this application because this brings them up to speed in terms of mirroring with us what we're doing with our current initiatives, as well as to include a potential hiring of an immigrant settler facilitator between our 2 communities who would help with newcomers and immigrant attraction and that type of thing. And through the delegated authority, that agreement was signed by the CAO in July. And I think that concludes my ECDEV report for now, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marquardt. So we'll go back to the beginning of information items, and item number 1 is the Business Retention and Expansion Training Program. Comments, questions? Item number 2 is the Culture Connector Awards presentation. Yes, Warden, please.
Yeah, it was an awesome opportunity to meet the winners. All very energetic and committed people, and it made you want to just join in behind them. It was one of the better outings I've had in a long time. It was just a really super group. They're connected to the community. They want people to be successful, and work very hard at it. And we're quite honored to be recognized. So congratulations to them and the benefit they bring to the town of Arnprior.
Thank you for that. Yeah, hats off to the town of Arnprior because they had the 3 awards winners. Item number 3 is the Taste of the Valley, and I certainly wanted to echo the success of the event at Eganville. I was in attendance, and the turnout was fantastic. And fortunately enough, the rain held off till 1. It was supposed to start at 11. But when it came in torrents, so I think it kind of ended the outside vendors' day a little bit earlier, but it was a fantastic turnout. Yes, Councillor from Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. Are these towns set for 2024, or is there an opportunity for other municipalities to get in with the Taste of the Valley for 2024? Thank you.
Ms. Marquardt.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yes, the dates have been set for 2024. We did release an expression of interest to host for 2023 and 2024 because we were trying to get a little bit ahead of the game in terms of the planning. So dates have been set for 2024, and we'll be opening up applications for 2025 and 2026 next year.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, item number 4 is the recently announced and open funding programs. Maybe I'll just go through each one. The Advanced Manufacturing and Innovative Competitiveness Stream. The New Horizons for Seniors Program. The Grow Ontario Market Initiative, the Meat Processors Capacity Improvement Initiative, and the Forest Biomass Program. Yes, Warden, please.
Just out of curiosity, the Forest Biomass Program, I know we've wandered through that a number of times and even thought of agriculture byproducts. Is there an active interest in our community that could pursue this funding, or is it too large a project for the amount of material we produce? I'm always curious about how much energy to put into this, to be honest with you.
Ms. Marquardt?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. There is 2 of our forestry businesses who are currently looking at an application for this. Currently, the infrastructure side is a bit of a challenge in terms of getting materials to and from the location. So both our forestry and ECDEV staff have been in touch with those 2 businesses, and we're trying to support them along the way. They seem to be the only 2 that we're aware of right now that have an appetite to pursue this for this round.
Well, that's great news. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, item number 5 is the Canadian Nuclear Laboratories and Organization of Nuclear Industry Supplier Day. Item number 6 is the new Economic Development Business Newsletter. Yes, Warden.
Sorry, with regards to item number 5, that also coincides with OEMC, so we'll have to work around that. They've invited me, so I'm going to talk to the member from Bonshire Valley and the member from Arnprior about representing me on the 6th, because I have to give opening remarks at OAMC. So it's just too, they're both at 2 o'clock, I think, so it's just not going to work. So I'll work out the arrangements and we'll be represented. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Once again, back to item number 6, the business newsletter. Great idea, and I'm really pleased that it is going out to all of the lower tier municipalities so we can share it on our websites as well. Item number 7 is the Rural Economic Development Program Funding Agreement for Rural Community Inclusion Pilot Project. Yes, Councillor from Town of Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Melissa. Melissa, it's pretty exciting news to get this funding for a community inclusion plan for our new immigrants. And I see that the initiative is part of goal number 2, which is workforce development. In Petawawa, we recently sponsored a few Ukrainian families, and the biggest barrier for them to obtain employment in their field is lack of good English speaking. And because they have to go out during the day to support their family in order to live, there's no opportunity for them to take English lessons during the day. So has any thought been given to using some of this funding for English language programming in the evenings so that they can, our new immigrants to the county can get their English language skills up to speed and then get better paying jobs in their trained fields?
Ms. Marquardt, please.
Yeah, through you, Chair, and thanks. That's a great question. We haven't really hammered out all of the details yet, and I haven't seen the full details of what this project is going to entail yet, but either through this project or through the current newcomer attraction strategy project that we have ongoing right now, we recognize that ESL, English language services, are lacking right now in the area to support newcomers to the region, so that will be identified in either our strategy or this new project that will be happening, but we understand and recognize that there is a need for the region, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Warden.
Yeah, I'm glad to see the inclusion of a person who can assist municipalities in developing their own individual strategies. That's been something I've been griping about for years, because our smaller municipalities don't have the capacity nor the expertise to run out and put a plan together. And so it gets not so much shelved as it gets pushed off to the corner of the desk and it gets worked on occasionally. So hopefully there's a template plan that can be sent out and some time spent that can be it can be manipulated or fine-tuned for each individual municipality, because I know our smaller municipalities want to do something. They don't have the capacity, the energy, or the knowledge, and I think this is a nice way of doing it and allowing them to start working on inclusion. So I'm really glad to see it, and the report that Ms. Buckholz completed and sent recently that backstops this is pretty impressive as well. I'm not sure. I think I saw a draft, so I think the final one's coming out in the next little while. So I think it'll be very impressed. You'll be impressed when you see it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Just to follow up, I do agree that this is a great initiative. I just read a report recently about the looming. There already is a shortage of skilled trades, but with retirements, the looming vacancies are kind of scary, and hopefully that this will provide an opportunity for maybe attracting some of the skilled trades into our area. Again, the federal government wants to bring in 2 million immigrants every year, and we know we have a housing crisis, and currently we're only building 220,000 new units in a year. So the other challenge is, how do we keep pace with the new immigrants that are coming in? Seeing no other questions, then we'll move back to Ms. Marquardt in the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association report.
Thank you, Chair. And just before I move on to the OVTA report, I wanted to express our thanks to the Township of Bonnechere Valley and North Algona-Wilberforce for their collaboration on hosting Taste of the Valley on Saturday. It was very much appreciated, and I missed those accolades in my previous report. Okay, so on to tourism now. Number one is just an update on some of our community outreach that's happened over the summer. So we, OVTA, along with Enterprise Renfrew County and the Economic Development Division, were at the Pembroke Community Expo in May and the Multicultural Festival in July. And these are really great local community events that help us showcase our services to the local residents and newcomers and visitors to the region. And we also attended the opening of the Lake Dory Lodge at Melissa Bishop Park, in the Township of North Algona-Wilberforce. And this is a great new property for a meeting and event space that can hold anywhere from 60 to 80 people and includes a commercial kitchen facility. So it was really great to include that and bring that into part of our tourism and economic development community. Number two is the Visitor Information Center program. So the OVTA, in collaboration with a number of municipalities across the county, support and operate visitor information centers. We've got 2 in Arnprior, 2 in Renfrew, 1 in Cobden, 4 locations now in Pembroke, 1 in Petawawa, Eganville, Killaloe, Barry's Bay, as well as a freestanding location in Golden Lake now. And so our partnership with these municipalities is we provide all of the brochures and literature and tourism information. We take the staff on a 2-day familiarization tour across the region, so they get to learn and experience about some of the tourism opportunities and activities that are being promoted and offered here. And we also provide customer service training for the staff. So that familiarization tour for the staff took place on June 27th and 29th, and we toured a number of businesses. We typically divide the familiarization tour up into 2 different regions, one along the Highway 17 corridor and one kind of along the Highway 60 corridor, just because the region is so large, it's impossible for us to get everywhere in a span of 1 day or 2 days. And then the following year, we do the same thing, but try to hit up other locations that we haven't hit up in previous years. So we try not to do the same activities and visit the same businesses year after year, just so that all of our members and businesses have the same opportunity to showcase what they do. So knowing that our membership now at the OVTA is up to 300 tourism businesses, it's proving to be a tad challenging to make sure that we can get out to see everybody, but we're doing the best that we can on that. And for those businesses that we can't get out and see, we provide product knowledge training also to those to the staff, so that they know about some of the other things that are happening in the other communities and the other tourism offerings available. The customer service training this year was provided with a new partnership with Contact North that are located in Pembroke, and we're able to provide free virtual customer service training and de-escalation training for staff this year. So that was a really great new partnership that we established with them for that. And the training provided the staff with an opportunity to do it online at their own time within a specific time period. And then also on June 22nd, we supported the opening of a brand new visitor information center in downtown Pembroke. This is a pilot project with the Downtown Business Improvement Association and the city and the OVTA. And so the city, located at the Phoenix Center in downtown Pembroke, the VIC will be operating from Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this is a pilot project until the end of this year just to see how that works out. But we're happy to support that and to offer tourism services in the downtown Pembroke region. Number 3, the data collection program. So some of you may be aware that we have been having challenges over the past number of years of getting up-to-date tourism data and stats and knowing how many visitors are coming here. And so the first item in the report, the Ontario Tourism Industry Health Check Report, that's the new report that Destination Ontario started releasing during the pandemic, and that's just kind of to track the progress of the tourism industry recovering post-pandemic. But the second item on the report, which is a geofencing data project, this was a pilot project that the OVTA did with Ontario's Highlands Tourism Organization and all of our other DMO partners within the region to get some timely, up-to-date data on visitation to Renfrew County. And so part of this pilot project was collecting data from 2019 as the base year, skipping over 2020 because nobody was traveling anywhere in 2020, and then using 2021 and 2022 as recovery years moving forward. So as part of this pilot project, we did a case study on 3 different regions within the region. One was along the Ottawa River, where the whitewater rafting companies are located. The second was the KMP trailhead in Calabogie to the Millennium Trail in Renfrew. And then we also did the downtown Pembroke and waterfront marina area. So you will see using data, the geofencing, this takes data from cell phone users basically. So if you have your location services turned on your phone, you are being followed and tracked everywhere, and we are going to know exactly where you're going. So this information that we have here is the most up-to-date because the last information that we had for relevant tourism data was from 2016. And while this doesn't capture the whole of Renfrew County, because this was just a pilot project, we are looking at adding more locations and getting a more robust data for more of Renfrew County moving forward. We're just in the middle of working out those processes with Ontario's Highlands now. But I won't go through all the data, but you will see that there is relative good numbers in all those 3 regions that we had. I think probably one of the most surprising was for Mr. Davis was the visitation to the KMP Trail, which was really great, and I think just proves to show how much of a need those outdoor spaces are and continue to be for people, residents, and visitors within the region. The other interesting fact, or interesting tidbits that we pulled out of these data reports in this pilot project was demographic profile information, where people are coming from, what motivates them to come here, their age, household income, all that kind of fun stuff, which is good for us to use to be able to fine-tune and hone in on our marketing that we're doing. So not surprisingly, when you look at, where visitation for the KMP Trail comes from, a lot of that is locally within Renfrew and Lanark counties. And then, no surprise, seeing visitors to the Ottawa River and the Pembroke area coming from Ottawa, Toronto, as well as locally was also no surprise there. So we'll be looking, as I mentioned, to continue this and hopefully capture more data for other regions and communities and areas throughout Renfrew County. Number 4 is just an update on the municipal accommodation tax. So similar to the EV infrastructure committee, OVTA has been sitting on a municipal accommodation tax with the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario because there are, as most people know, there are some challenges around the collection, enforcement, and remittance of those, the municipal accommodation tax. The big thing that's come out recently is TIO is looking to advocate for a change in the legislation that would require all short-term rental platforms to collect and remit the municipal accommodation tax funds. Currently, the only one that's doing it is Airbnb, and they're doing it voluntarily with some municipalities. The legislation currently doesn't specify who is to remit, and so Airbnb is now seeking what they're calling platform parity. they don't feel that it is fair for them to be the only ones to remit and collect and do all that work when other platforms like VRBO and TripAdvisor and things like that are not doing it either. So Airbnb has actually joined forces with Tayo to help advocate for legislation that would require all short-term rental platforms to collect and remit if that legislation is enacted in a local municipality for a municipal accommodation tax. So obviously, as the OVTA, we are in full agreement of that one. Every platform who is dealing in the short-term rental agency should be collecting and remitting if that is a bylaw in a local municipality. The other two questions that they asked in terms of this group was, would there be support for the province collecting and remitting, collecting the municipal accommodation tax on behalf of all municipalities and then remitting it to the municipality? There was a lot of mixed responses from the partners and members of this committee. Some were in favor of it, some were not. So Tayo was just letting that one go for now. They understand that more research needs to be done on that one. The other question that they asked was on whether it should be up to the province to regulate the short-term rental industry. Again, there was a lot of mixed feedback from the members of this group, and so again, Tayo is letting that one go. They understand that there is more research and data required on that one, but they will be going forward with advocating for a change to the legislation that requires all short-term platforms to collect and remit, and they will be advocating for that at the upcoming AMO conference. So I would encourage, if any municipal partners are in support of that legislation and you're at AMO and speaking to the regular people, that to maybe include that as part of your conversations. And just a reminder that currently there is no municipal accommodation tax in Renfrew County at this time. Number 5 on the report is the Cycle Tourism Conference. So I did circulate just a flyer to all of you that came in after reports were issued. So the Ottawa Valley Cycling and Active Transportation Alliance is hosting a Cycle Tourism Conference at the Nick Smith Centre on September 13th. This is being supported by the OVTA and Ontario's Highlands Tourism Organization, as well as Lanark County. And this is to discuss Trail Town tourism concept. If you recall, Avcata presented to DMP, I think it was in April or May, about the Trails Town concept. And so they're organizing a conference to bring together all economic development and municipal folks, as well as tourism businesses, community organizations, and even local residents to come and speak about the future of trail tourism and cycling in Renfrew County. Number 6 on the report is sustainable tourism designation for Renfrew County. So if you recall, I think at the last in June, I spoke about the sustainable tourism designations that have been received by some of our local businesses. And thanks to funding, financial support from Ontario's Highlands, we're going to be going through that process to get a sustainable designation for Renfrew County. It's quite a lengthy process. It takes about 8 to 10 months to complete. So we're beginning that work this month, and hoping to have our designation by spring of next year if we meet the requirements. And lastly on the report is the Tourism Development Fund. So this is a funding program that was announced just earlier, or at the end of July, and applications are open until September 14th on that. And OVTA is currently exploring the feasibility of submitting an application for ourselves to do the resident engagement strategy, which we had previously applied to another tourism funding program, but were not successful. So we're looking at the feasibility of that. And I have one more on my tourism report. Just some local media, recent media coverage that we received. So we hosted Dine Magazine, which is a culinary magazine from Toronto, last year. They went whitewater rafting and spent a day in Eganville doing recreational geology stuff. And so their feature about that was included in their summer issue. And then also, this was a big win for us. So La Route Champlain is our francophone tourism product that we promote that traces the footsteps of Samuel Champlain. And we've been having a lot of traction in promoting this in our travel trade markets overseas. And through our attendance at Rendezvous Canada in Quebec City at the end of May, our travel trade coordinator was actually able to have a sit down with CBC Radio-Canada Television because they were very interested in featuring this because they realize there's not a lot of Francophone tourism products that come out of the province of Ontario. And this is a big one that takes part in a number of regions across Ontario, so they featured that actually on their television show Tout Inclus back at the end of July. And so that was a really nice little feature because we were the only route in Ontario that was featured on that little short publication. So that was a nice feature for us. And that completes my OVT report, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Margaret. We'll go back to information item number 1, the community outreach. Item number 2 is the 2023 Visitor Information Center Program. Comments, questions? Seeing none. Item number 3 is the data collection program. Yes, Councillor from Greater Madawaska.
Yeah, I know you said it was on the KMP trail that this was collected. Whereabouts? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, through you, Chair. The trailhead right in town by the Redneck Bistro and then continues all the way to the Millennium Trail in Renfrew.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, then item number 4 is the municipal accommodation tax update. Seeing no questions, item number 5 is the Cycle Tourism Conference. Item number 6 is a sustainable tourism designation for Renfrew County. Great initiative, lots of work. It's going to keep you busy. Item number 7 is the 2023 Tourism Development Fund. And finally, item number 8 is the recent media coverage. And seeing no questions, then we'll go back to Ms. Marquardt for the Enterprise Renfrew County report.
Thank you, Chair. This is a shorter report. So number 1 on workshops and outreach. Through June and July, ERC hosted a series of virtual workshops on marketing and social media, search engine optimization, and financial services, and with a total of 96 participants at all of those events combined. And then staff were also in attendance at the PMFRC Career Fair in partnership with the County Renfrew's Human Resources Division. And that was just to showcase the small business startup information and services provided by ERC to attendees at that event. Number 2 is the Starter Company Plus spring grant recipients. So we've now wrapped up the spring intake session for that, and we had 9 participants that received funding on that, and they are included in the report. So we have Adrian Brown with Moth and Moon Tattoo in Chalk River, Ben McMurky from BM Audio Works in Renfrew, Yvonne Nobbs from Highlands Outfitters in Cumbermere, Karen Ramsden from Bake My Day Bakery in Renfrew, Tammy Reimer from Valley Angels in Wilno, Catherine Stewart from Northern Viking Farm in Eganville, Michelle Tierney from Mackey's Golden Meals in Golden Lake, and Divya Vivekanandan from Nala's Kitchen in Killaloop. Number 3 is the fall intake session for Starter Company Plus. So we wrap up one intake session and we start up a second one. So information sessions, one was held virtually last week, and we have another one being held this week. And it is a requirement for any candidate or participant who's interested in applying to this program. They have to participate at one of those 2 information sessions. So those are coming up. And then the deadline to apply is August 25th for that, with programming and training starting on September 6th. Number 4 is the Summer Company Wrap-Up event. So Summer Company is our youth entrepreneurship program, and that is wrapping up at the end of this month. But we have a public wrap-up event that is happening at the Petawawa Container Market this Friday. So on Friday, Petawawa Container Market will be featuring their youth container market, which is their students and youth vendors. And so we're partnering with the town and the container market to have our Summer Company participants be vendors of that event also. So the focus is on a youth container market in the afternoon, and then the standard container market will kick off later on that evening. But we're encouraging everyone to come out to the Civic Center Road from 12 to 4 p.m. on Friday afternoon to support our youth entrepreneur and all of their creative and great ideas that they have with their summer businesses this year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Marquardt. You've had to do a lot of talking. Information item number 1 is the workshops and outreach. Just a question, Ms. Marquardt. Is this something that will be repeated in following years, or is this the one-off?
No, these workshops are done continuously, so we actually have a pretty robust program coming up for Small Business Week in October, where there's a whole number of training opportunities, but ERC offers these on a monthly basis ongoing. The topics do change from month to month, but there's ongoing training that's provided.
Excellent. Great news. Item number 2 is the Starter Company Plus Spring Grant recipients. Item number 3 is Starter Company Plus, the 2023 Fall Intake Session. And item number 4 is the Summer Company Wrap-Up. And seeing no further questions, that brings us to our forestry report. And Lacey isn't with us this morning, so I'll turn it over to Director Davis.
Thank you, Chair. And item number 1, and found on page 47 of your committee package, an update on the emerald ash borer recovery strategy from the province. And as you see in the report, the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, MECP, published a bulletin stating that the province needs more time to have the recovery strategy in place for the black ash. Again, this is in conjunction with the emerald ash borer devastating all the ash trees in Ontario. So sort of good news on this one, because the ramifications for forestry operations could be large once it's finalized. Item number 2, another sad story on the forestry review or forestry report, oak wilt. You may recall that Lacey provided an update about this oak wilt disease. It was highlighted coming our way from the States, coming south. We thought, our staff thought, we'd had more time before it comes into Ontario. Unfortunately, in the past, this past spring and summer, a number of locations within Ontario now have oak wilt affecting the oak trees. So we don't know much about in the sense of the ramifications here in Renfrew County, but we'll keep appraised. Lacey's very well versed, very well connected in these items that are affecting the forestry. But nonetheless, it's another impact, another hit on the forestry. We have emerald ash borer, we have now oak wilt, we have beech bark disease, we have all these things affecting our forest industries and forestry, period. It's sometimes a sad day for the county forester. Item number 3 is an update on the Beechburg Tract public tour. So we've been very aggressive on our outreach and education, specifically for the Beechburg area. So you may recall that we just completed a forestry operation in the Beechburg Tract, and then in conjunction with this, we did the forestry operation. Now we're going to prep for a regeneration program for to replant this area. So Lacey took it upon herself to invite the public and the municipal staff and councillors, if they wanted to come to the Beechburg Tract to review the tract of what happened in the past of the operations and what the next steps for regeneration is going to be. So a good news story in the sense that a number of people attended, between 20 to 25 people. Very much, this is probably the highest use forestry track for recreational people. So it's good that we get this education process out there. And we'll continue to do this whenever we have a forestry operation on a well-used forestry track moving forward. Item number 4 is just an update on the Shawwood Education Board meeting that happened. So Lacey attended the Shawwoods meeting, again, working with the wind event and working with some plantation removal. So again, realizing that the forestry staff do support the Shawwoods moving forward and with their day-to-day operations. Item number 5 is the update of the forestry operations, and you'll see a status of the different tracks that are out there for the operations. And we've exceeded, as we mentioned before, and numerous times, we've exceeded our budget target for this year of $180,000. Again, this is not a typical thing. It ebbs and flows between budget cycles, but this year is a good year as we move forward. So there it is in front of you as where we're at with the different forestry operations, and we still have a number active right now. Last but not least, item number 6, found on page 49, the appointment of the county forester to the Ontario Professional Foresters Association Council. So as you see in the report and found on page 49, that Lacey has been nominated by her peers to let her name stand for Vice President of the Ontario Professional Foresters Association. Again, this is a good news story for us, a good news story for Lacey, as she's being recognized for all the hard work she's done in the past, both on her professional life and personal life, dealing with forestry. We all know here in the County of Renfrew and in this committee, very passionate about forestry, and now within her profession also, so a good news story. Again, Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Davis. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the Emerald Ash Borer. Comments, questions? Item number 2, the Oak Wilt. Item number 3 is the Beachburg Tract Public Tour. Item number 4 is Shaw Woods Outdoor Education Center Board Meeting. Item number 5 is the harvest operations. Certainly is a good news for budget. And item number 6 is the appointment of the county forester to the Ontario Professional Foresters Association Council. Certainly great that Lacey has been recognized by her peers. So seeing no questions, then we'll move to the Real Estate Division report, and Mr. Raditz isn't with us this morning, so we'll go back to Director Davis.
Thank you, Chair. And found on page 50, just 3 items in the Real Estate Division report. Item number 1, on page 51 is the summary report of the capital and capital under threshold projects that were approved in the 2023 budget, and nothing really outstanding on that summary. Item number 2, just for information that the staff spent a lot of time and energy inputting the final 2021 energy consumption and greenhouse gas emission for our energy usage, which was completed and identified for 14 buildings. So those are another requirements that we have to do now. That takes up staff time and energy, but nonetheless, it was completed in time and on budget, not in budget, but in time. And last but not least, just a quick update on the Lee and Douglas Street build. You recall we started this project a number of months ago. We provide updates through our Zen City application. If you ever get a chance to look at that, we've added some new additional photos to our project. So if you happen to be in the city of Pembroke by the Lee and Douglas, you'll see actually the frames on top of the foundation moving forward. So it's again, another good news story, moving this file along, moving the actual build along. So very excited to get this at this stage. I think we're at a point now where the surprises should not occur. There's always surprises when you start digging. Oh, knock on wood. Anyway, there should be no surprises, but nonetheless, we are making progress on the new build for, again, as a reminder, 8 units, 12 bedrooms. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Davis. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the Real Estate 2023 Capital and Capital Under Threshold Project Report. Item number 2, the broader public sector energy report. And item number 3, the 1030 Lee Street new build, and your very optimistic comments. Sometimes when you make those comments, the next day you get a surprise. So, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, then we'll move on to the Real Estate Division, the Planning Services Division report. And Mr. Howarth, please.
Thank you, Chair. As always, leaving the most important and exciting to the very end of the agenda. I understand. Sorry. Mr. Director Davis did speak a lot. I'm cognizant of the time, so I'll try to make this as quickly as possible for you. The planning report is on page 52, starts on page 52 of the agenda package. Information item number 1 is an update to the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Affairs, the guideline for especially prime agricultural land. We did circulate this as information to all local municipalities, so the local municipalities should have this information and be able to use it. This is a guideline. The province has a whole bunch of guidelines. There's like, for example, there's it will be a one-sentence policy in the provincial policy statement, and then about 30 pages of guidelines behind the scenes that are indicating how that policy should be affected. So this is just one of those guidelines that has been updated, and we have circulated it for information. Item number 2 is an update to the provincial policy statement. In April, we had previously reported that the province is undergoing a process to review and potentially update and replace the provincial planning policy statement with a provincial planning statement. It is on the ERO for comments right now. Back in April, the natural heritage policies were still under consideration. They didn't release any update to those at the time. Those policies have now been released and are available on the ERO. Staff have reviewed those and have found that the changes are fairly insignificant or minor, to the point of they shouldn't have any impact on Renfrew County or our local municipalities to our knowledge. So nothing really to get too worried about there. Item number 3, we actually have a video for this. Is another information coming back from, I believe it was our May DMP session. This is out of an initiative started by the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and working with the Rural Ontario Institute, is providing information with regards to housing and providing a service to identify housing information gaps to support the housing market and trying to encourage as much new housing to be built as possible. So this is we have actually a demonstration. Maybe I'll turn it over to Tina, who has a YouTube video queued up for us to watch.
Each municipality has an overview page that serves as its landing page when coming from the home screen. From here, you can see a high-level summary of the location and navigate to various related report pages. The links down the left-hand side of the screen represent the various types of reports that are available for each location. Clicking on any of these items will bring you to that report for the current location. Along the top of the overview page are a series of data point cards. These provide some quick, high-level summaries of data found on various report pages. More details on what the card represents can be found by hovering the mouse over the information icon. While clicking on the card will drill into the related report. Below these are municipal links. These are external links to various municipal resources provided by the municipalities via surveys. These can contain links to items such as the official plan and housing and homelessness plan. Lastly, the overview pages contain the community asset map. The map shows all nearby resources that have been determined beneficial for homeowners. This includes items such as schools, parks, health services, and community centers. Clicking on the filter icon above the map will bring down a list of all assets that can then be filtered by categories. And to the left of this filter is an icon for toggling between full screen views. You can return to the home page from here by clicking the site logo in the upper left corner of the screen, or start searching for a new location using the search bar at the top.
Thank you. So staff at the County of Renfrew and actually the local municipalities as well are working with the Rural Ontario Institute, ROI, to feed them data that will eventually hopefully make its way to this website and provide this tool for developers or municipalities, or it could be, for example, we talked about Habitat for Humanity or other nonprofit groups who are looking for doing housing projects, and hopefully this information will be there to support them in that, and we can continue to work with them to provide this tool. And with that, Chair, for the next few information items, if we could, I believe Lindsay Bennett, our senior planner, is here to help out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and yes, we are pleased to have Ms. Bennett with us, so she's going to speak to the new subdivision items in the report.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 4 is a new plan of subdivision application in the town of Deep River that was submitted to our office. This plan of subdivision consists of 5 blocks that will create 12 townhouse units. This application is currently being circulated in accordance with the Planning Act, and due to the recent Planning Act changes, a public meeting will not be held. Item number 5 is a plan of subdivision for Kings Landing, application number 47T22001 in the township of Madawaska Valley in the village of Barry's Bay. So this was draft approved on July 7th of this year. The plan of subdivision consists of lots and blocks for a total of 78 residential lots, including blocks and lots for semi-detached, blocks for multiple detached dwellings, lots for single detached, a block that will either be for a 42-unit apartment building or 44 stacked townhouses, as well as blocks for water access, stormwater management, and a pumping station. Item number 6 is that final approval was given to a plan subdivision for Petawawa Town Center in the town of Petawawa, and this was given on July 20th. This plan subdivision consists of 96 multiple attached units, parkland to be dedicated to the town, and land for utilities, including a storm water management plan.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett, and we'll go back to Mr. Howarth to complete the report.
Thank you, Chair. And the last information item is with regards to a request for proposal for the flood hazard identification priority setting. So this project is aligned with the federal flood mapping framework under NRCan, and the purpose of this project. This is stage. I would like to emphasize this is stage 1 of the project. There are potential multiple stages to this. So this is the first one, which is mainly to categorize as a data gathering exercise. So the point of the stage 1 is to identify the current mapping status, identify any shortfalls of our current data, identify and prioritize areas for acquiring new mapping, and also lastly to develop a plan to acquire that data. And we are hopefully I shouldn't say hopefully, we were approved for a grant that would cover approximately 50% of this first stage, and we're working with both the federal government and the provincial government on this project, and they've been a great asset and a resource for us as we've been undertaking this project. And also we've been working very closely with local municipalities. I don't want to neglect that, especially Laurie Armstrong with the Township of Renfrew Valley has been providing quite a bit of support for this. And so staff here at the County of Renfrew, with using our GIS division through Angie and local municipal support and the County of Renfrew, and with the monetary support from the federal government, we're moving forward with stage 1 of this project. So the RFP, we did receive a number of qualified bids, and the lowest of the proposals was submitted by High-Tech Geomorphic, and we'll be reaching out to them to procure that service and moving forward with this stage 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Howarth. So going back to information item number 1, the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs guideline updates, comments or questions? Item number 2 is the provincial planning statement update. Comments, questions? Item number 3 is the Rural Ontario Institute Housing Information System. Yes, the warden.
Yeah, I think it's important to note this was a very innovative partnership between the Warden's Caucus and Rural Ontario Institute. I think all of us have been very impressed with the work of the Rural Ontario Institute over the years, the data and reports that they put out periodically about our communities and the larger community are often quite informative. And they've increased their capacity to do other things. And so this was a fairly significant initiative. And I should pass out accolades to the federal government. CMHC funded it to the tune of about $1.2 million. So without their agreeing with the vision and the concept, this would not have happened. So it's a real good news story where the Rural Ontario Institute, the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, Rural Ontario Institute and the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and CMHC put together a valuable tool. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. It certainly centralizes a lot of that information. Item number 4 is a new subdivision, Deep River. Comments, questions? Item number 5 is a draft approval for the King's Landing. Item number 6 is the final approval for Petawawa Town Center. And finally, item 7 is a request for proposal for the flood hazard identification and priority setting. And seeing no comments, questions, then we'll go back to Mr. Howarth for bylaws, please.
Thank you, Chair. And for this one as well, I'd like to pass it over to our senior planner, Lindsay Bennett.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, I missed that. It was Ms. Bennett that's going to lead this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Number 8 is a bylaw for official plan amendment number 41. This official plan amendment is in the Township of Admaston-Bromley. I will read the recommendation. That the Development and Property Committee recommends to County Council that a bylaw be adopted to approve official plan amendment number 41, OPA 41.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. You've heard the recommendation. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Town of Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from Town of Greater Madawaska, or Township of Greater Madawaska, and I'll go back to Ms. Bennett for the background.
Thank you, Chair. This is an official plan amendment that was submitted by Phil Donahue and Helen McGregor, and the agent was JP2G Consultants, to amend Schedule A of the official plan to redesignate a 1.4 hectare property from agriculture to agriculture exception 3. The change in designation would facilitate the severance of one new residential lot. The lot creation in the agricultural designation is limited to large agricultural lots, existing agriculture-related commercial and institutional use, lot adjustments, and for surplus dwellings. The proposed severance related to this official plan amendment does not conform to the official plan. A plan justification report, including an aggregate impact assessment, was submitted in support of this official plan amendment. The report indicates that the proposed severance does not conflict with the objectives of the provincial policy statement for the agriculture designation. Agricultural uses of the severed and the adjacent properties are already limited due to the size of the properties, the presence of the existing dwellings surrounding the property, and a water course. The subject lands are within a cluster of residential uses, and the proposed severance is considered to be an infill lot between existing dwellings. The new lot and the existing residential lots in the area are separated from the agricultural lands to the northeast by the existing creek. The planning justification report concluded that the agricultural operations in the area would not be negatively impacted by the introduction of this one new residential lot within this existing cluster of dwellings, and that the new lot would not introduce any new land use conflicts or compatibility issues. There was a public meeting held at the Township of Admaston-Bromley Municipal Office on June 15th, 2023. The application was circulated in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, and no concerns have been identified. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Any comments or questions? Yes, Warden.
Quick question, why was there a public meeting? Because when I look at the other two submissions, especially the Deep River one, it says there wasn't a requirement for a public meeting. Is there a requirement because it was agricultural land, or is there it's a different set of regulations?
Ms. Bennett?
Thank you, Chair. There is a requirement to have a public meeting. We had it for, there is a zoning bylaw amendment as well. So we did hold a joint public meeting for the OPA as well as for the zoning bylaw amendment.
If I might, I'm not criticizing. I'm just trying to get my head around when there's a public meeting, when there's not a public meeting, that's all. It's not, it was just a comment to make note that it seemed unusual for my thinking when you have a multi-lot subdivision that doesn't have a public meeting, but you have a single lot on a 1.4 hectare piece of property in rural Ontario with no basic impediments, you need a public meeting. So it was me trying to get it straight so that I might be able to offer advice to somebody someday.
Through you, Chair. So there is no requirement through the Planning Act for plans of subdivision public meetings. There used to be in the past, but that's changed.
I was playing to the camera. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that motion is carried. So I'll need a mover and a seconder to adopt the report as a whole. Moved by Councillor from McNabb-Braeside, second by Councillor from Laurentian Valley. Any comments, questions on the report as a whole? Seeing none, all in favor? That motion is carried as well. New business, and Councillor from Arnprior has some comments he wanted to make.
Thank you, Chair. Two comments. One is the Valley Festival was held in Arnprior a couple of weeks ago. We had a wood carver, chainsaw person, and the comment he made was, if you have a dead tree, keep the stump and he'll carve something on it. So we've passed that on to our municipalities, and we're going to do that in our park rather than leave a stump there. The second part is on the 26th of August, we're doing our cultural night market. That's probably the reason we're not part of the Taste of the Valley. But that's from 3 till 10 on the 26th of August. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. Any other new business? Seeing none, then the date of the next meeting will be Tuesday, September the 12th, 2023, and I'll need a mover and a seconder to adjourn. Moved by the warden, seconded by Councillor from Greater Madawaska. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We are adjourned.